Hello. Get out of my house, my son Justin shouted, his voice tearing through the air, like a storm, eyes blazing with a fury I had never seen before. We're done talking. I stood there holding the keys to the house I had helped him buy and simply nodded. Okay. A week later, my phone lit up with 47 missed calls from Justin. I smiled quietly, knowing that what I had planned had already begun to unsettle their lives. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Get out of my house, Justin's voice cracked like a whip. His eyes ignited with anger I could hardly recognize. We're done talking. The dining room fell silent. The faint clink of wine glasses seemed swallowed by the weight of his words. My hand froze, the glass trembling, sending a ripple across the surface of the Chardonnay. I stared at my son, my only son, and felt my chest tighten as if the very air had been sucked out of the room. The modern chandelier above cast sharp shadows across the polished table. Patricia leaned back, arms crossed, her manicured nails tapping a slow, deliberate rhythm. "You've overstepped, Peter," she said, smooth as ice hair, perfectly in place, not a single strand out of line. She didn't look at me, merely tilted her head toward Justin like a queen commanding her court. My gaze flicked toward the staircase where Tommy and Emily peeked out from the shadows. Emily clutched her teddy bear tightly, her small face pale, while Tommy's wide eyes locked onto mine, silently pleading for something I couldn't name. "Justin," I said softly, setting down the glass, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "Let's talk. Whatever this is, we can—" He cut me off, pacing the hardwood floor, the polished sound of his loafers echoing sharply. "You're always in the way, Dad. Always meddling." His hands flailed wildly, knocking over a fork that clattered against the plate, a sharp, jarring note in the tension-filled room. I searched his face for the boy who once begged me for one more bedtime story, but all I saw was a stranger, jaw-tight eyes avoiding mine. Patricia leaned forward, her diamond earrings catching the light. "We need space, Peter. Permanently." Her words landed like a blade, cold and final. I wanted to argue, to demand recognition for all I'd done, but the sight of my grandchildren stopped me. Tommy's lip quivered. Emily hugged her bear tighter. I couldn't make things worse for them. "If that's what you want," I said, my throat dry. I stood, knees creaking, reaching for the coat draped over the chair. The fabric felt heavy, like my heart. My fingers brushed the key in my pocket, the key to this house, the house I'd helped them buy. I gripped it, the metal cool in my palm, a silent vow I didn't yet fully understand. Justin pointed toward the door, chest heaving. "Just go!" His voice cracked for a fleeting second, and I wondered if he felt it too, the fracture between us. Patricia's lips curved, not quite a smile, but enough to show me who held the upper hand. I walked toward the door, my worn shoes scuffing the pristine floor. The house was all glass and steel, a sterile showcase of their success, so unlike the cozy chaos of my own home. A family photo hung on the wall, me, Justin, Margaret, all smiling from years ago. I paused, my reflection faint in the glass frame, and in that moment I felt both the loss and the quiet, unspoken determination stirring within me. When had that warmth vanished? I asked myself again, the question echoing louder in the emptiness of the car than it ever had in the house. The front door loomed behind me, a solid slab of oak, with a sleek handle carrying years of laughter and arguments, of milestones and broken promises. I opened it, letting the evening air sweep across my face, cool, crisp, a sharp contrast to the storm that had just erupted inside. Behind me, a soft, trembling voice whispered, "Grandpa." I didn't turn. I couldn't bear her eyes, those innocent, searching eyes that had always held unconditional love. The door clicked shut, and the silence outside was deafening, pierced only by the distant hum of Ben's quiet streets, a world unaware of the fracture within mine. I shuffled toward my car, parked beneath the pale halo of a street lamp. The last rays of dusk painted the glass walls of the house in molten shades of orange, making it seem alive, almost mocking me with the glow of what once had been. I slid into the driver's seat. The leather groaned beneath my weight, echoing the ache in my chest. My hands shook as I drew the key from my pocket, its jagged edges catching the streetlight, a symbol that had once meant hope, a gift to them, a promise of family. I'd held on to it even after signing over the loan, keeping it as a quiet testament to the home I'd secured for them. Now it felt like a reminder of betrayal, of what had been lost. The key pressed cold against my palm, a question I had no answer to. My eyes fell on the dashboard where a faded photo rested me. Justin and Margaret at Tommy's first birthday, all of us laughing, a memory of warmth now distant. My throat burned as I traced the smiles with my eyes. What had turned my son against me? Patricia's cold stare flashed in my mind, her voice like a puppet string pulling Justin in ways I hadn't seen coming. I started the engine, the steady rumble beneath me, a small comfort, but my gaze lingered on the house, its lights like eyes watching me leave, judging me for what I couldn't yet understand. The road stretched dark and quiet, Ben's pine-lined street slipping past as I drove. My knuckles whitened on the steering wheel, the silence in the car heavier than the fight I had just endured. A street lamp flickered, stuttering like my hope, and I could still hear Justin's voice, the venom in his "get out." Where had my son gone, the boy who had clung to me after Margaret's funeral, promising we'd always be family? My eyes fell again on the dashboard photo, and memory hit like a wave. Me, Justin, Margaret, all grinning at a picnic years back. The sunlight in that photo seemed almost to glow. I was transported back to 2020 when everything felt possible. Justin had lost his job, his voice trembling over the phone. "Dad, we're going to lose the house." I remember the suffocating air of the bank, thick with coffee and the scent of fresh paper. The pen had felt impossibly heavy in my hand as I signed the check, draining the savings Margaret and I had set aside for our retirement. But it was for Justin, for Tommy, for the family we'd built. We'd sat in their half-furnished living room boxes, still unpacked, the smell of new paint lingering. Justin held a mug, steam curling like little ghosts into the air, his eyes wet as he looked at me. "Dad, you saved us," he said, voice thick. "You'll always be welcome here. Always." I'd smiled, feeling the warmth of his words wrap around me like a blanket. Patricia hadn't been there, off at some blogger event, already building her empire. At the time, I hadn't minded. Justin had been enough. But now, driving through Ben's quiet streets, the memory stung sharply. The house key sat in my pocket, its weight a cold reminder of a promise broken. When had Justin changed? My thoughts turned to Patricia, her coldness creeping into his life after their wedding, the way she'd begun to call my visits intrusions. Had she turned him against me? The thought knotted like steel in my chest. The Dash's river came into view, the surface glinting silver under the moonlight. I pulled over, the gravel crunching under my tires. The car's interior felt like a cocoon, worn leather, faint coffee stains, and the photo on the dashboard, my only companion. I touched the key, letting its edges press into my palm. I had given them everything, my savings, my heart, and tonight Justin had thrown it back in my face. The cool, pine-scented air met my skin as I stepped out. The river murmured, flowing steady and constant, as if mocking my inner chaos while soothing it at the same time. I leaned against the car, staring at the water, my reflection fractured and faint in its dark surface. The moonlight kissed the ripples, and for the first time tonight, I let the weight of it all wash over me. The loss, the anger, the longing. Somewhere in that quiet, I realized that though a bridge had burned, the river kept moving, and maybe, just maybe, so could I. Margaret would have known what to say. She always saw through people, her journalist's eyes as sharp as mine, cutting through facades, exposing truths no one wanted to face. But she was gone, and I was alone, left to grapple with a son I hardly recognized. Justin, the boy who once clung to me after Margaret's funeral, the boy who whispered, "You saved us." Dad had vanished, replaced by someone I didn't know. I whispered into the stillness of the night, my words lost to the murmuring river. What did I miss? The river offered no answer, only the soft rhythm of its currents. But something shifted inside me, subtle yet undeniable. I wasn't the frail old man they presumed, the meddling widower they dismissed so easily. I had spent decades uncovering truths, exposing lies, toppling corrupt officials. Patricia's smug face flashed in my mind, her perfect nails tapping out her control, her dominance over my son. Justin's pacing, his avoidance. They weren't his choices, they were hers. And now I knew I would no longer be passive. My jaw tightened. The key in my pocket, heavy and jagged, felt less like a burden and more like a weapon, a tool of reclamation. They had pushed me out of their lives, but they didn't know the real me, the relentless journalist who had risked everything for truth, the man who thrived in the pursuit of justice. I slid back into the car, the steady rumble of the engine grounding me. My eyes fell on the photo again, Margaret's warm smile urging me forward. They don't know who I am. I whispered the words firm avowal, echoing in the quiet interior. The river's murmuring faded as I pulled onto the road, the night wrapping around me, and my mind already began to turn, plotting, strategizing. They thought they had won. They were wrong. I pushed open the door to my apartment, the hinges protesting in the silence. Justin's get out reverberated in my skull, a loop I could not mute. I slumped into my armchair, the worn fabric sighing beneath me. Around me, the room was a cozy mess, stacks of old newspapers, a chipped mug perched precariously on the table, Margaret's framed photo, catching the lamplight like a beacon. A letter from Liz, my daughter in Portland, lay unopened. She had been urging me to visit, but I hadn't had the heart to reply. Her smile steadied me now as it always had. I needed her fire, her clarity, her ability to see through the noise. My gaze drifted to a framed article hanging crookedly on the wall. Yellowed with age but still proud, local journalist exposes City Hall scandal. That was me 30 years ago, relentless in my pursuit of truth, sleepless nights and unflinching courage. I had buried that man beneath grief, grandkids' soccer games, and the routine of survival. But tonight, Justin and Patricia had woken him again. They thought I was weak. They would learn otherwise. I pulled a worn leather notebook from the shelf, its edges softened by years of use. The pen scratched sharply against the paper, each word a declaration. Justin follows Patricia, blindly weak-willed. I paused, the words settling in the silence, then continued, Patricia obsessed with image hates scrutiny. The sentences felt alive pieces of a puzzle that I intended to solve, a map of strategy forming in my mind. Beside the notebook, I placed the house key. Its cold metal glinted under the lamp, no longer a simple object of access, but a symbol of what they had taken and what I intended to reclaim. I leaned back, the chair creaking under me, and spoke softly to Margaret's photo. You'd tell me to fight, wouldn't you? Her eyes seemed to glimmer in response, her quiet smile nudging me forward. After she died, I had poured everything into Justin and Liz, believing that family would be my legacy. Justin had once been my anchor, his gratitude for the house a tether to warmth and hope. I had given them a lifeline, a future. Now he had cut me loose and Patricia wielded the blade. I rose, my knees stiff, and crossed to a shelf crowded with old files. My fingers brushed against a framed photo, me, Justin and Tommy all laughing in the sun at a park years ago. The memory ached, yes, but it also fueled me, reminded me of the love, the stakes, and the fire I still carried within. And in that ache, determination ignited. They had misjudged me. They had underestimated the man I still was. The night was dark, but I could see clearly now. The fight had only just begun. I wasn't doing this for me, not anymore. This was for Tommy and Emily, for the grandpa they deserved, the one who would never let anyone diminish them or the love they had a right to. I moved with purpose through the apartment, my fingers grazing the shelves, pulling out old clippings, yellowed with age but sharp in memory. My bylines stared back at me. Peter Bell, relentless, unyielding, a man who never backed down. Each headline was a reminder of who I was, who I still could be. They think I'm weak, I murmured, voice low and steady, almost a whisper, but every syllable carried a promise. They're wrong. I scribbled into the notebook, words forming a map of strategy, a blueprint for truth. Patricia's glossy blog, Justin's insecurities, the cracks in their armor, they were all there waiting to be uncovered. I'd spent decades noticing flaws, weaknesses, and fissures in people's carefully constructed lives. This was no different. The dim apartment light cast long, jagged shadows over the clutter. The air smelled faintly of old paper, coffee stains, and determination. I paced softly over the worn rug, mind spinning faster than my heart. I didn't yet know every detail of the plan, but I could feel it forming, sharp, precise, certain. They had hurt me, but I would return the pain, not with anger, not with shouts or fists, but with truth, the kind that cuts deeper, that leaves no room to hide. I stopped at a drawer, tugging it open with purpose. Inside rested my old contact book, its cover faded pages worn and dog-eared from years of connections and confidences. My heart quickened as I flipped through names, tracing familiar ones with reverent fingers, colleagues, sources, friends from reporting days long past. And then it stopped, one name standing out like a beacon. Clara, sharp, relentless, still in Portland. she'd know where to begin. A faint smile touched my lips, the first real one since Justin's outburst. Let's see how they like the truth, I said quietly, firmly. The notebook lay open, the house key glinting beside it, and Margaret's photo seemed to watch over me, her gaze steadying, approving. The fight was just beginning, and I was ready. The lamp on my desk flickered shadows, dancing across stacks of old articles, and the chipped mug, each object a relic of a life lived and a promise kept. I hunched over my laptop, Patricia's polished blog, glaring back at me, each post a carefully curated lie. Her latest photo, designer apron and perfect smile, captioned, "Living my truth," made my jaw tighten. Truth, she wouldn't know it if it bit her, I muttered. Fingers hovering above the keyboard, I leaned in. The apartment was silent except for the faint hum of electricity in my own heartbeat. I was a journalist again, hungry searching, and Patricia was my target. I scrolled, exposing her life layer by curated layer. Cooking tutorials, brand deals. Lifestyle empire built on charm, on ambition, on pretense. But charm crumbles under pressure. That's where the truth lives. I jotted notes in my worn leather notebook, its surface warm under my hand. Patricia needs adoration, hates criticism. Justin followed, insecure, spineless. Each line scratched onto the page fueled my focus, sharpened my resolve. The family photo on my desk caught my eye. Me, Justin, Margaret laughing in the sunlight years ago. Tommy and Emily deserve better than Patricia's cold control, better than Justin's complacency. I pushed my glasses up, resolve hardening. Margaret's voice echoed in my mind. Dig deeper. Peter. I would. For my grandkids, for me. I grabbed the phone, dialing Ellen, my old Portland colleague. The line crackled before her voice came warm but brisk. Peter Bell, you old fox. What's this about? Need a favor? I kept it light. Patricia Bell runs a food blog. Any dirt, Ellen chuckled, a sound like gravel underfoot. Your daughter-in-law, huh? Word is, she's got a hefty business loan. 6 figures tied to her brand. Over-leveraged. One wrong move, and it's trouble. My pulse spiked. I scribbled loan into the notebook, circling it. Thanks, Ellen. Owe you one. She teased before hanging up, and I leaned back in my chair, the creak of worn leather echoing through the apartment. A loan meant pressure, and pressure meant cracks. Patricia's pride built on perfection, and public applause wouldn't survive exposure. I let the thought linger, tasting it, letting it sharpen me. The fight had begun, and this time they would see the Peter Bell they had underestimated for far too long. 2 days later, my anger had hardened into something colder, sharper, a laser focus that demanded action. I needed a change of scene, somewhere I could think without the suffocating walls of my apartment pressing in. I needed more than just a plan, I needed perspective, a vantage point for what was to come. I shrugged on my jacket, the house key heavy in my pocket, a reminder of the life they had tried to erase, and stepped out into the city. My destination, the Brood Awakening, a coffee shop downtown, familiar yet anonymous, buzzing quietly with life. The bell above the door jingled as I entered, a small sound that cut through the scent of roasted beans and the low murmur of conversation. I claimed a corner table, one overlooked by most, its wooden surface scratched and worn from years of use. A barista called out orders, her voice a cheerful hum over the clink of mugs, a melody of ordinary life that contrasted sharply with the storm forming in my mind. I sipped my black coffee, the bitterness anchoring me, steadying my pulse, and opened my laptop. Patricia's blog glared back at me, glossy, immaculate, curated perfection. I dove into the comment section. Beneath her sparkling posts, a few users jabbed at her empire. Overpriced junk, one wrote. All hype, no substance, said another. Patricia's replies were immediate, sharp, defensive. I work hard for my brand. Haters, stay out. I smirked, scribbling defensive under scrutiny in my notebook. This was exactly what I needed. She lived for applause. Without it, she wilted. Perfect. I glanced at the family photo tucked in my wallet. Tommy's bright grin, Emily's small, serious face. This was for them. This was for the grandpa they deserved, not the one Justin had allowed to be pushed aside. My pen moved again, fluid, deliberate. Expose her need for control, start small. The warmth of the coffee shop faded into the background. My focus sharpened until the noise of the world blurred into nothing but ink keys and the weight of my purpose. I wrote one last line in the notebook, cryptic but potent, test her pride. A faint smile tugged at my lips, the first in days, subtle but alive. The barista's laughter, the soft chatter, the hiss of the espresso machine, all blurred into insignificance. I closed the laptop, the click final deliberate. Patricia had thought she'd won, that she'd pushed me out, that I was finished. But she had no idea. Let's test her pride, I whispered, voice low, but laden with intent. The notebook stared back, its leather warm under my fingers, Margaret's photo, watching silently from across the table. The next morning I moved with purpose to the public library, seeking a space of quiet anonymity, a fortress of silence in which I could act without leaving a trace. The library smelled of old books, of polished wood and dust, a weighty reminder of the world's patience. I sat at a public computer, the harsh glow of the screen illuminating my determined face. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, steady yet alive with energy, the house key pressing into my pocket like a talisman, a reminder of everything I'd lost and everything I intended to reclaim. I opened an anonymous email account, my heart hammering as if urging me forward, and began typing. Words flowed short, sharp, precise. Patricia Bell's blog inflates prices, misleads sponsors. Check her marketing claims. Enough to sting, enough to seed doubt. I hit send, the click echoing in my chest like a gunshot in the silent room. Back in my apartment, I waited, the silence pressing against me, broken only by the steady tick of the clock. Margaret's photo smiled at me from the table, her presence a quiet encouragement. My notebook lay open, the cryptic coffee shop note test, her pride staring back at me, heavy with promise. I refreshed the Ben Bulletin website again and again, each click carrying a weight, each second a heartbeat of anticipation. Then it appeared. The headline, local influencer faces questions over business practices. My pulse quickened, a slow, satisfying burn spreading through my chest. The first ripple had begun. The fight had started. And this time they would feel the Peter Bell they had so recklessly underestimated. The article was measured professional even, but beneath its calm tone lay a damning blow. Anonymous sources carefully quoted exposed Patricia's inflated product prices and misleading claims. I leaned back in my chair, a smirk tugging at my lips. The world was noticing. Hashtags like #ReEnure Patricia Scam began trending across social media comments, piling up fraud, overrated perfect, each word a nail in the fragile facade she had built. Patricia's blog was next. I clicked on her latest post. Her defense was frantic, defensive, and almost laughable. "These lies won't stop me," I muttered under my breath. "My brand is built on trust," she wrote, her words riddled with typos, the Polish cracking under pressure. I chuckled low and slow, letting the irony drip through my voice. Trust, huh? Perfect. She was unraveling exactly as I had hoped. My phone buzzed. Justin's name flashed across the screen. I let it ring twice before answering, my tone calm as ice glass-like in its clarity. "Hello, this has your name all over it, Dad," he said, his voice raw with panic, trembling as if the walls of his carefully curated world were crumbling. I adjusted my glasses, feigning confusion, my lie smooth practiced. "I don't know what you mean, Justin. I'm just an old man staying out of your way." His accusation stung, though. My eyes flicked to the family photo on the shelf. Justin's childhood grin, a ghostly reminder of who he had been. Guilt flickered for a moment, then faded. This wasn't just about him. It was about Tommy and Emily, about the family they had tried to steal from me. "You're lying," he snapped, a voice cracking despite his anger. "Fix this, Dad, please." "Sounds like Patricia's problem," I said. "Calm final." He hung up. Silence followed, heavy, almost tangible. I exhaled slowly, tracing the edge of my notebook. The house key sat beside it, glinting in the lamp's warm light. I had drawn first blood, but the fight was only beginning. I refreshed Patricia's blog. The comments section had erupted into a war zone, Scammer One user typed. "Another your recipes suck." Patricia's replies grew frantic. "I'm hiring a PR team. You'll see." I nodded, satisfied. She was alone, her pride dangling like a fragile thread, one push, and it could all fall. The apartment's quiet wrapped around me, the creaky chair, my only companion. I sipped coffee, its bitterness, sharp grounding me as Justin's panicked voice echoed in my mind. Part of me longed to call back, to soothe him, to pretend I would stop. But then I saw Emily's face clutching her teddy bear that night at their house, her small expression of fear and confusion. No, I would not stop. Not now. Not ever. I opened my notebook, reviewing my careful notes. Patricia's obsession with control, Justin's shadowy compliance. I paused, pen hovering, then moved again, writing deliberately, push harder. Public stage. My pulse quickened. The plan was sharpening like a blade in my mind. I refreshed Patricia's blog again. Her latest post was a rambling defense, each line tinged with panic. My lips curled. Thrill long absent coursed through me. She's cracking, I murmured, a low hum vibrating in my chest, eyes locked on the screen. The notebook lay, open pages mapped with my intentions, each word a step toward the reckoning I had meticulously prepared. My phone buzzed again. Justin. 47 missed calls, each a silent plea, each ignored. The apartment remained still. The clock ticked steadily, a metronome to my deliberate calm. I sipped tea, its warmth grounding me, my eyes fixed on the notebook, the pages thick with strategy, patience, and resolve. The storm had begun, and I was ready. Patricia's empire was crumbling brick by polished brick, and Justin was caught in the debris. I sank into the chair, my fingers hovering over the phone, and played a voicemail. Justin's voice came through, raw, frayed at the edges, breaking like fragile glass. Dad, please. Stop this. You're ruining us. His words trembled, a tangled mix of anger and fear, pleading and accusation. I deleted the voicemail without a sound, my face unreadable, but my chest constricted as if the room had shrunk around me. He sounded like the boy I had held after Margaret died, shaking and crying, desperate for stability. That small, vulnerable boy had once trusted me with everything. I pushed the thought aside, forcing my gaze onto the family photo. Tommy's grin bright and unwavering, Emily's soft curls framing her innocent face. This fight was for them. But Justin's pain lingered, a ghost pressing against my ribs, a reminder of the son I had raised. Had I pushed too far in the name of protecting Tommy and Emily, I clenched my jaw. I'd keep going no matter the cost, but I wished in a quiet corner of my mind that it didn't hurt him so deeply. Patricia's blog was chaos. I refreshed it, watching the panic unfold. Her latest post announced a PR consultant, but the comments mocked her without mercy. Too late, scam queen. Your brand's toast. Her replies grew frantic, all caps, unpolished. I'm fighting back. I nodded, a faint smile tugging at my lips as the glow of the screen painted my face. Her loan, her pride, both fraying like old rope. One more push, I thought. Just one. Needing air, I slipped on my jacket, the house key heavy in my pocket, and headed to Drake Park. The breeze carried the scent of pine and wet earth, mingling with children's laughter and the chirping of birds. I found a bench near the edge of the field, the grass soft underfoot, and watched families move in rhythms of warmth and chaos. My phone buzzed again. Justin. I silenced it, jaw tightening. He had made his choice, aligning with her. Then a small voice cut through the noise. Grandpa Tommy came running, his sneakers pounding the path, his bright but uncertain face searching mine. My heart leapt, then sank with the weight of his tiny, fragile trust. I stood, arms open, and he crashed into me, hugging fiercely. Hey, why don't you come anymore? His voice was small, almost a whisper, eyes wide, seeking reassurance. I knelt, knees creaking, brushing his hair back gently. Things are tough with your mom and dad, buddy, but I'm fixing it. My voice was soft, steady, but his question pierced me like a blade. He frowned, clutching a soccer ball to his chest, innocence, battling confusion. Mom's always mad now? Yelling at Dad. I swallowed hard, throat tight, forcing the words out steady. I'll make it better, Tommy, I promise. He nodded, trusting me without hesitation, and in that small nod my resolve hardened. Patricia's poison was spreading, affecting my grandchildren, and I would not allow it to continue. A woman approached, her expression apologetic. He saw you and ran off, she said clearly, Tommy's babysitter. I waved it off, ruffling Tommy's hair. See you soon, champ. He grinned, sprinting back to his game, his laughter a spark lighting my chest, giving me both warmth and determination. Back in my apartment, the quiet returned, heavier now, oppressive yet familiar. I checked Patricia's blog again. Her latest post was almost a plea. My family's suffering. Stop the lies. The irony burned hot in my chest. Her family. She had torn mine apart. Comments piled up relentlessly. Karma's real. Quit whining. Her PR hire wasn't saving her. Not even close. My phone buzzed again. Another voicemail. I played it. Justin's voice low and desperate. Dad, I know it's you. Call me, please. His plea hung in the air, unanswered. I set the phone down slowly, my fingers tracing the edge of my notebook. Tommy's words echoed in my mind. Mom's always mad. I would shield him and Emily, no matter the cost. The family photo caught my eye. Margaret's smile urging me on a silent command to persevere. I opened the notebook again. My notes spread out like a roadmap. Patricia public stage. Justin breaking. My pen hovered, paused, the weight of the next move pressing against my chest. Every heartbeat reminded me this was far from over. The fight was only just beginning. A new idea was forming in my mind, sharp, precise, and daring. The key in my pocket felt alive, a pulse of purpose I hadn't felt in years. Justin had thought he could stop me. Patricia had thought she was untouchable. Both were wrong. You're not done yet. I whispered, my voice low, a quiet vow threading through the room. My fingers hovered over the notebook, steady, deliberate, ready to etch the next move. The burner phone felt cold and alien in my hand, its cheap plastic a stark contrast to the weight of what I was about to do. I sat at my cluttered desk, the lamp casting a dim yellow halo over the notebook, its pages thick with plans, schemes, and careful calculations. The apartment was quiet, the faint scent of coffee lingering, but my pulse thrummed like a war drum. Patricia's empire teetered precariously, and I was ready to push it further, each move precise, each step inevitable. I dialed a number from Ellen's contact book, the name Vivian Cross lighting up in my memory. Patricia's sharp, meticulous investor. My voice low and measured disguised the journalist I had once been, the one who could dissect truth from lies in a heartbeat. You might want to look into Patricia Bell's books, I said, clipped anonymous. Her brand's not as stable as she claims. A pause, then Vivian's crisp, authoritative reply. Who is this? I hung up. The click sounded final, echoing in the silent apartment, my breath steady, the seed planted. The first ripple in a tide they wouldn't see coming. I tucked the burner phone into a drawer, my fingers brushing the family photo on the shelf. Me, Justin, Margaret, all smiles from years ago. Tommy and Emily deserved a grandpa who fought for them, not one pushed aside by Patricia's ambition. Margaret's voice echoed in my mind. Protect what matters. Peter. I nodded, jaw tight, and scribbled again in the notebook, Vivian Cross reviewing Patricia. The scratch of the pen was a rhythm, a countdown, a pulse of inevitability. I needed to see my grandkids to feel the grounding reality of why this mattered. Grabbing my jacket, the house key heavy in my pocket, I drove toward their school. The curb was alive with chatter sneakers, pounding pavement, the air sweet with blooming lilacs, mingling with laughter and early spring warmth. I parked across the street, heart lifting, as Tommy and Emily came into view, backpacks bouncing with every step. I stepped out, waving, and they ran to me, hugging fiercely. Grandpa Emily squealed, her ribbon loose in her curls, her little arms wrapping around me like a lifeline. You came. I did, I said, pulling a small book from my bag for Tommy, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, and a delicate blue ribbon for Emily. Their grins warmed me from the inside out, but my eyes scanned the perimeter, wary. Justin or Patricia's eyes could be anywhere. Tommy flipped through the book, eyes wide with excitement. This looks awesome. Read it slow, champ, I said, ruffling his hair. It's got secrets you'll want to catch. Emily tugged at my sleeve, her voice soft but insistent. Come back soon, Grandpa, okay? Always, sweetheart, I replied, throat tight, voice low. Their love anchored me, reminded me why I endured the chaos, the lies, and the battles. I knelt to tie Emily's shoelace, my fingers steady despite the adrenaline in my chest. My phone pinged a text from Justin. What are you doing, Dad? Stay away. My jaw clenched. Paranoid, sniffing for control, but powerless. I ignored it, pocketing the phone, and hugged the kids one last time. See you soon, I promised, voice firm, unyielding. The babysitter nodded politely, and I slipped back into my car, mind racing with strategies and contingencies. Back in my apartment, the quiet returned heavier, now pressing against me. I opened the drawer, checking the burner phone. A new email awaited from an encrypted address. We're reviewing her accounts. Thanks for the tip. My pulse quickened a thrill that hadn't touched me since my reporting days. Vivian was moving fast. Patricia's loan, her pride both now teetered on the edge. The game had escalated the pieces in motion, and I was ready to push forward. I sat back in my chair, fingers resting on the notebook, staring at Margaret's photo. Her smile seemed to push me forward, whispering in silence, "Keep going. Fight for them. Protect what matters." And I would. I set the notebook down on the worn tabletop, its pages a labyrinth of strategies, notes, and meticulous observations, a map of my fight. The family photo sat beside it, Margaret's smile soft but insistent, urging me forward even from beyond. The house key in my pocket felt almost alive, a pulse of purpose against my palm. Justin thought he could scare me off. Patricia thought she was untouchable. They were wrong. "It's starting," I murmured, a low hum vibrating in my chest, eyes locked on the notebook, absorbing each line, each calculation, each plan for the next move. The anticipation coursed through me like electricity. Then Tommy's small, clear voice crackled through the phone, carrying the weight of innocence and worry. "Dad didn't get the big job, Grandpa. He's always quiet now." I sank into my chair, letting the words land like stones in my chest, twisting triumph and guilt into a tight knot. The notebook lay open, pages splayed like a battle map, charting Patricia's unraveling empire. But Justin's quiet disappointment, his missed opportunity, stung more sharply than anything I had done to Patricia. My son, my boy, had become collateral damage in my war, and I had caused it. The house key gleamed beside the family photo under the lamp's soft light, a reminder of what I had begun and what I could not yet stop. I leaned back, the chair groaning beneath me, staring long at Margaret's familiar smile. She would have known exactly what to say, how to balance love with justice, how to navigate the wreckage without losing the heart. Tommy's call echoed in my mind. Mom yells at Dad a lot. Patricia's grip was cracking, and Justin was breaking under the pressure. Had I wanted this to shake their carefully curated perfect life, to make them feel my absence, my exile? The thought both thrilled and terrified me. Justin's silence, the missed time promotion, felt like betrayal, too close to home. I needed space, clarity, a change of scene. I grabbed my jacket, the house key heavy in my pocket, and headed out into the cool night, the city lights blurred by the wet asphalt reflections. Pine Tavern, a diner downtown, offered anonymity and a place to watch, listen, think. The bell jingled as I stepped inside, the air thick with coffee steam and sizzling bacon. I slid into a corner booth, vinyl creaking beneath me, ordered black coffee, and let the din of conversation fill the background. The menu crinkled in my hands, but I wasn't reading it. Two women at a nearby table spoke in low, sharp tones. That influencer couple's falling apart, one said, her words almost spit. Patricia's tearing into Justin, blaming him for her mess. Rocky marriage, the other replied, shaking her head. Heard he lost a promotion. Stress, probably. I hid a smirk behind the coffee mug, letting it warm my fingers. My tip to Vivian had worked. Patricia's empire was rattling, and Justin had been caught in the fallout. Satisfaction flickered, tempered by guilt, a cold, sharp thing gnawing at the edges of my triumph. Images flashed through my mind, Justin at 10, laughing as we built a birdhouse. Hands sticky with glue, cheeks flushed with pride. Had I gone too far, I placed the house key on the table, the metal cold against my fingers, and whispered softly to myself, "This is for Tommy, for Emily, for the family they tried to steal from me." The women's conversation drifted back, rocky marriage. Patricia's control slipping, Justin paying the price. The irony stung, the guilt lingered, but my resolve sharpened. My phone buzzed again. "Tommy," I answered, voice low and gentle. "Hey, champ, everything okay?" "Mom's mad all the time," he said, small and uncertain. "Dad just sits there." "I miss you, Grandpa." My throat tightened, his words, a knife slicing through the remnants of my comfort. I saw Emily's curls in my mind, the soft hug of her teddy bear, and my resolve solidified like iron. "I miss you too, buddy," I said, steadying my voice, soft yet firm. "I'll see you soon. I promise." The cafe's warmth, the murmured conversations, the smell of bacon and coffee, all of it faded into the background. My focus narrowed. The fight wasn't over. Patricia was faltering. Justin was caught in the rubble. And I I was ready to guide the storm for my grandchildren, for the family that deserved a grandfather who wouldn't yield. I'm working on it, okay? Be strong. Tommy's voice trembled over the line, small but fierce in its hope. He mumbled a soft goodbye, and the line went dead, leaving silence thick around me. I gripped the house key in my pocket, its edges biting into my palm, a pulse of weight of purpose. Patricia's poison was seeping into my grandchildren's lives, and I wouldn't stop. The diner buzzed around me, the clink of plates, laughter, murmured conversations, but it all faded as I opened my phone. A new article had appeared on the Ben Bulletin. Local influencers' financial woes deepen. Patricia's name screamed from the headline, her brand exposed under the harsh glare of scrutiny. My lips curled, a spark of triumph igniting inside. Vivian's review had hit hard, and the evidence I'd carefully placed was spreading. I stirred my coffee, the spoon clinking against the mug, and replayed images of Justin as a boy, his eyes full of trust, his little hands in mine. Guilt clawed at me briefly, but Tommy's words from yesterday, his small, fragile plea, drowned it out. I would shield my grandkids no matter the cost. The notebook waited at home, its next page blank, hungry for the next move. My fingers hovered over the phone again, eyes locked on the article. Patricia was next. Her fall was imminent. Your turn's coming. I whispered, my voice low, a vow threading through the din of the diner, already planning my next strike. Back in my apartment, the soft hum of the laptop greeted me, a window into Patricia's unraveling empire. I leaned forward, chair creaking under me, and opened a secure browser. Fingers dancing across the keys, I posted an anonymous expose on a local forum. Patricia Bell's merchandise, 300% markup, shoddy quality, receipts attached. I had called an old source, a supplier I'd interviewed years ago for a story, Loose Lips. Careful recollections, invoices, confirming overpriced subpar products. I hit send, breath steady, eyes sharp. The house key sat beside the notebook, a silent partner in my fight. I refreshed the forum. The post exploded. Retweets, comments, hashtags like Shocker, Notch, Patricia fraud trending. Scam alert, one user wrote. She's done, said another. A news alert pinged investors, pulling out. Vivian Cross had acted, yanking Patricia's lifeline. I nodded, a slow curl of satisfaction warming my chest. Her loan, her brand, her empire all teetering. The family photo watched from the table, Margaret's smile steadying me. This was for Tommy, for Emily, for the grandpa they deserved. But Tommy's voice from yesterday haunted me. Mom broke a plate yesterday. She was crying. Patricia's fall was justice, but it came at the cost of my grandchildren's comfort. The weight pressed cold and hard against me. I pushed it down. Justice first. I needed air. Slipping on my coat, the house key heavy in my pocket, I headed to Powell's Books, a cozy bookstore downtown. The bell chimed as I entered, the scent of inky pages wrapping around me like a cloak, the soft music guiding my focus. I wandered to a quiet corner, phone in hand, checking Patricia's blog. Her latest post was a trembling mess. I'll rise above this hate. My brand is my heart. Typos scream panic. Her polish shattered. I smirked, but Tommy's words dimmed my triumph. The phone rang. Tommy. I stepped outside into the street's soft hum, the bookstore's hush fading behind me. Grandpa, he said, small, hesitant. Mom's not okay. She's yelling, breaking stuff. My heart sank, but I kept my voice steady. I'm sorry, champ, I said, gripping the phone tightly. I'm fixing things. Okay, you and Emily hang tight. He mumbled a fragile, okay, and I felt his trust thread through the line, real delicate. I hugged the phone to my chest, vowing silently that Patricia's chaos could not touch their hearts, not while I was there. Back inside, I sat by a window, the soft bookstore light washing over me, rustling pages whispering around my ears. A barista's hum grounded me. I scrolled through the forum, the backlash relentless. Refund my order. She's a fraud. Patricia's frantic replies, I'm fighting for my family. The irony burned hotter than fire. Her family, she had torn mine apart. I opened the notebook, pen poised above the page. Its pages were a chronicle of my war, a living map of justice and strategy. I wrote deliberate, Patricia exposed. Next, endgame. My pen paused. Tommy's voice lingered in my mind, soft and earnest. I saw Emily's curls, her little teddy bear pressed to her chest, and my resolve hardened like steel. Patricia's fall would be justice, but I would protect my grandchildren from every shard of the fallout. The soft light of the bookstore cast long shadows over my hands, over the key, over the notebook. Outside, the world moved on, unaware of the quiet storm brewing in a corner of Powell's books. Inside, I was ready. The key in my coat burned against my side, a pulse of purpose reminding me why I'd begun this. I refreshed the news again. Another headline. Influencers' brand faces collapse. Patricia's world was crumbling, and I had built the fault line. Satisfaction warmed me briefly, a slow, dangerous heat, but caution tempered it. Justin was next, the silence from him heavier than all his calls combined. I opened the notebook, pen hovering. Finish it for them, I wrote, feeling the weight of the endgame settle like stone in my chest. One final blow, one decisive move, and this would be over. One more step, one more strike, and it would all make sense. I murmured the thought, a quiet vow I almost whispered to the shadows around me. The bookstore's soft light faded in my mind. I was already moving forward, already planning. A sharp knock rattled the apartment door. My pulse spiked, a drum in my chest. I froze, suspicion curling in my veins. The pen clicked against the notebook as I set it down, the house key glinting beside it. Crossing the creaky floor, I smelled the familiar mix of old books, coffee, and ink, a scent that had always steadied me. Margaret's photo on the table caught the light, her smile gentle, urging caution. I opened the door. There they stood. Justin first, eyes red, sunk in his polished veneer cracked. Patricia beside him, her poise forced scarf knotted tight around her throat like armor. Their empire lay in ruins, yet here they were timid, seeking something. Mercy, forgiveness. Dad, Justin began, his voice a whisper cracking under the weight of weeks of panic and shame. Can we talk? His hands fidgeted, shoes scuffing against the floor, a shadow of the man who had screamed at me weeks ago. Patricia stepped forward, her thin, practiced smile a brittle mask. We want to move forward, Peter, she said, smooth, deliberate. But the slight tremor in her voice betrayed her, and I noticed the twitch of manicured nails, a subtle but telling betrayal of her control. I leaned against the doorframe, gaze sharp, searching for truth in their faces. I'd toppled their empire. Patricia's brand lay in ruins. Her lone-pulled investors spooked. Justin's career was stalled, precarious. And now they came crawling, seeking some fragile thread of reconciliation. Come in, I said, voice low, measured. I did not step aside immediately, forcing them to brush past me, hesitant, uncertain. Each step they took felt heavy, weighted with the consequences they'd ignored. The apartment's dim light cast shadows across their faces. Justin's stubble was stark against his pale skin, Patricia's makeup too perfect, concealing the panic behind her eyes. I shut the door, the lock clicking like a gavel striking judgment. They sank onto my worn couch. Justin hunched forward, shoulders tight, hands clasped. Patricia rigid, every movement, controlled, eyes darting nervously to the cluttered apartment newspapers, my open notebook, the key lying deliberately in sight. I'm sorry, Justin, he blurted, voice raw, trembling. She pushed me, Dad. Told me you were meddling, ruining us. I shouldn't have listened. His eyes, so like Margaret's, pleaded, wet with regret, searching for my forgiveness. My chest ached. I wanted to believe him, to see my boy again. But Patricia's presence chilled the room like a sudden winter wind. She leaned forward, voice syrupy, words oiled with calculation. We've all made mistakes, Peter. Let's start over for the kids. Her eyes avoided mine, flicking instead to the key on the table, the notebooks, the newspapers, a predator weighing her prey. But Tommy and Emily's faces flashed in my mind, their hugs warm, their laughter pure, their trust untainted. She would not manipulate them. Words alone could not erase the months of chaos, the fear, the betrayal. I spoke cold and deliberate. Words don't fix this. I stood, arms crossed, fingers brushing the house key in my pocket, the metal pressed into my palm, grounding me. It wasn't just a key anymore. It was my fight, my family, the line I would never let them cross. Justin flinched, hands trembling, guilt written across his face. Patricia's lips tightened, a flicker of defiance, a queen cornered, unwilling to bend fully, yet aware of her downfall. Silence stretched in the apartment, thick and suffocating. The air held the tension of a storm about to break, the faint scent of coffee mingling with the sharp bite of fear. I let it linger, letting them feel the weight of their choices. I didn't rush to speak again. I let the truth sit heavy between us, as real and hard as the key pressing in my pocket. And in that silence, I knew the battle wasn't over. But for the first time, they understood the cost of underestimating me. We're losing everything. Justin said, voice breaking, tremulous and raw. My job, our home. I failed you, Dad. His confession landed like a blade twisting in my chest. I saw him not as the man before me, floundering and scared, but as the boy I once knew, 10 years old, laughing over comic books, sticky fingers smudged with glue, and chocolate eyes bright with innocence. My throat tightened. The memory burned sharp and bittersweet. But then I saw Patricia standing behind him that night, cold and immovable, her stare like ice, backing him up, pushing me out of their world. The memory ignited anger alongside the ache. You chose her, I said, my voice steady, low, carrying the weight of months of betrayal and loss. You both did this. Patricia's carefully constructed smile faltered for the briefest moment. Her hand smoothed the scarf at her throat, a nervous tick, betraying the poise she so desperately tried to maintain. I glanced at the family photo nearby, Tommy's grin, Emily's curls bouncing in the sunlight years ago. Their faces, their laughter, their trust that was my anchor, my reason. This was for them, not these two. We'll change, Patricia, said voice rising, almost convincing. We'll make it right. Her words were polished, rehearsed, but her eyes betrayed her, glinting sharp with pride, not remorse. No warmth, no true understanding. I shook my head, resolve hardening like steel. I'll think about it, I said, deliberate final. No promises offered, none would be. I opened the door, the creak loud in the silence of the hall. Justin hesitated, eyes searching mine, something between hope and fear flickering there. Patricia rose poised, cracking slightly as she brushed past me, each step heavy, uncertain. They stepped into the hall. I shut the door behind them. The lock clicked final, a punctuation mark on their plea. I returned to the table, notebook, open pages worn lined with strategy and intent. It was my map, the chronicle of my war. The family photo watched over me. Margaret's smile steady, grounding me amidst the storm. Justin's tears from yesterday, Patricia's lies, the hurt they'd caused. It lingered raw and real. But Tommy and Emily deserved more than my anger. My fingers traced the notebook, moving over old notes, new possibilities. This isn't over, I whispered, a quiet vow, echoing through the apartment, steadying my pulse. Later, the park by the Dashawaits River hummed with life. Children's laughter mingled with the rustle of leaves, the gentle glint of sunlight on the water. The weight of weeks lifted slightly as I pushed Emily on a swing. Her giggles were sharp, bright, a melody that cut through every shadow of worry I'd carried. Tommy's small feet kicked up dirt as he ran toward me, sneakers pounding the path, a grin unstoppable across his face. Grandpa, catch me, he shouted, exuberant, spilling from every word. My heart soared, lifting with the lightness of the moment. I could feel the house key in my jacket, a silent reminder of the battle fought, the victory earned. I was back where I belonged, in the center of what truly mattered. Hold on tight, sweetheart, I called to Emily, giving the swing a gentle push. Her curls bounced in the sunlight, laughter spilling like wind chimes. Tommy tugged at my sleeve, waving a crayon drawing. A stick figure family, simple yet perfect with me included. This is us, Grandpa, he said, eyes bright shining, with the unfiltered love only children possess. I knelt, knees creaking, hugging him, and the paper at the same time, feeling the crinkle of the drawing press into my chest. This love, this trust, this innocence was why I had fought, why I had toppled Patricia's empire and shaken Justin's world. This was why I endured, why I carried the key, the notebook, the memories, and the pain. My phone buzzed, Liz calling from Portland. I stepped aside, the river's murmur soft in my ears, grounding me. Dad, you did it, she said, voice warm, proud, imbued with the relief of one who knows the stakes. Justin and Patricia are barely holding on. Their house is on the market. Her blog dead, completely destroyed. I nodded, the triumph tasting sweet but hollow, tinged with the bitter aftertaste of Justin's red-rimmed eyes from yesterday. His suffering was collateral in a war I had waged, but I reminded myself they had chosen their side. They made their choices, I said, voice steady but heavy. Liz exhaled on the other end. You're right, but you've got the kids now. That's what matters. And she was right. I looked out over the river, Tommy and Emily, chasing light in shadows, laughter ringing clear. The key in my pocket pulsed, a reminder of battles fought, lessons earned, and love preserved. The fight was done. The war for now was over. And the grandpa they deserved was here, fully present, unbroken, and ready to guide them through the rest of their lives. Tommy's laugh rang out bright and free, cutting through weeks of tension like sunlight through storm clouds. Emily's hug wrapped around me, small arms squeezing with pure trust and love. They were my win, my peace, my reason for every sleepless night, every plan, every battle fought. I stepped fully into their world again, chasing Tommy as he kicked the soccer ball with unrestrained joy, Emily giggling behind him, chasing, tumbling, shrieking with delight. "Grandpa, push me higher," Emily squealed, scrambling back onto the swing. I laughed, a sound foreign yet liberating after weeks of sharp edges and quiet rage. "You're flying, kiddo," I said, my voice warm, firm on the swing's chains. The swing arced through the air, the breeze carrying the scent of pine and river water, filling my lungs with life. Every leaf, every ripple on the water's surface mirrored the vibrancy returning to me. Margaret's memory lingered in the sunlight, her quiet strength guiding me still. I saw her in my mind's eye, smiling from that old family photo, grounding me, reminding me why I fought so hard. For Tommy and Emily to have a grandpa who was present, steadfast, unyielding, not a ghost exiled by Patricia's ambition. And yet caution lingered, a shadow along the edges. Justin's pleading voice. Patricia's hollow apologies, they weren't done, not entirely. We picnicked on the soft grass, the kids' chatter weaving around me. Drawings sprawled in crayon across a blanket, colors vibrant against the green. Tommy pointed toward the river, eyes wide with hope. "Can we fish there, Grandpa?" he asked, voice tinged with longing. I ruffled his hair, heart swelling. "Someday, champ. Someday soon." Emily's curls brushed against my cheek as she wrapped her arms around me again. "You're the best, Grandpa," she said softly, a chirp of joy that pierced every lingering shadow in my chest. I smiled, throat tight, words catching in my chest. "You make me better," I replied, my voice steady, warm, carrying the weight of love and promise. Back in my apartment, quiet settled like a blanket, warm and familiar. The family photo sat on my desk, Margaret's eyes proud, unwavering. I opened the notebook, its pages heavy with the story of my fight, notes on Patricia's loan, Justin's weaknesses, every strike executed, every move anticipated. I tucked Tommy's crayon drawing inside its messy lines, a new chapter of innocence and hope. Beside it, Emily's ribbon lay bright and blue, a token of laughter and trust. My eyes caught an envelope on the table, Justin's handwriting, neat, familiar. It had sat unopened since yesterday, a weight pressing against my chest. I lingered, fingers brushing the notebook's worn leather cover, the house key in my pocket, now light, almost a talisman of reclaimed place and purpose. But Justin's words, Patricia's note, what did they truly mean? I unfolded the letter slowly, feeling the crisp paper beneath my fingertips. The quiet of the apartment wrapped around me. The family photo seemed to watch, Margaret's smile, steadying me, anchoring me in the moment. The house key rested in my pocket, no longer heavy, now a quiet badge of my fight. I'd torn down their world, Patricia's brand, Justin's hubris, and now their words lay before me, fragile, honest, and pleading. Justin's letter was raw ink, smudged where his hands had trembled. "I failed you, Dad. I let her control me. I want my family back." His words hit hard, stirring memories of his childhood, laughter, of trust freely given, of nights he had clung to me after Margaret died. Patricia's note was stiff, formal, a cold reminder of ambition unbroken, despite the collapse of her empire. "Let's move forward, Peter, for everyone's sake." I met Justin's eyes in my mind. The boy I'd known, the man I'd feared, lost, regret etched across his face. Perhaps in time we could rebuild, not fully, but enough for the kids. Her coldness seeped through every syllable, pride still intact. I scoffed softly, setting her note aside. Justin's plea lingered, fragile, yet undeniable, but trust was a bridge they had nearly burned down. I needed air, clarity, movement. I grabbed my jacket, the house key jangling lightly in my pocket, a comforting pulse of purpose. I called out to the kids. "Come on, let's go to Drake Park," I said, voice steady. Their eyes lit up. Tommy grabbed my hand. Emily's curls bounced as she clutched my coat sleeve. Outside, the sun glinted off the river, the grass glowed golden, and the park buzzed with life. I stepped into the warmth, the weight of weeks lifting the promise of laughter and love ahead. For Tommy, for Emily, for the grandpa they deserved. The Dashwaits River murmured softly, its surface catching the last glimmers of sunset, painting streaks of molten gold across the water. The breeze carried the scent of pine and riverbank earth, mingling with the distant laughter of families leaving the park. Tommy ran ahead, the soccer ball bouncing in rhythmic taps, his grin wide eyes bright with mischief and joy. Emily tugged at my hand curls, wild in the wind, her tiny fingers gripping mine with insistence. Grandpa, tell us a story, Tommy called, breathless, from running voice sharp and eager. I smiled, letting the warmth of the moment fill me. Once upon a time, I began, my voice calm, low, carrying a gentle authority. There was a grandpa who fought for his kids and for the family he loved no matter what. The children giggled, unaware of the depth of truth in my words, believing it simply a tale of adventure. We settled on the soft grass by the riverbank, their hands warm in mine, small anchors of trust and love. The river rippled beside us, a soft echo of the calm. I felt each current carrying away the shadows of recent chaos. This was my victory. Not Justin's house, not Patricia's hollow approval, but these fleeting, precious moments. I thought of Margaret, her unwavering strength, her voice guiding me through my darkest hours. Her smile flashed in my mind from the old family photo, a compass that had led me back to what truly mattered. Justin's letter lingered at the edge of my thoughts, his regret genuine, but not enough to erase the past. Patricia's shadow still loomed, a reminder of the games she'd played, the manipulations she'd spun. I'd won. I'd toppled their carefully constructed world with the cunning of a journalist who refused to be ignored. But forgiveness, that was a bridge I wasn't ready to cross, not fully. Tommy and Emily, their trust untainted, their laughter pure, were enough for now. Grandpa, stay forever, Emily said, arms curling around my neck, her voice a chirp of hope and certainty. I hugged her close to my throat, tight words caught between love and relief. I'm not going anywhere, sweetheart, I whispered firmly, a vow carrying through the cool evening air. Tommy grinned, giving the soccer ball a final kick. You're our hero, he said simply, and those words pierced deeper than any praise or recognition ever could. My chest swelled, my heart full, and I thought of Liz's call earlier, her steady voice reminding me, "You've got the kids, Dad. That's what counts." She was right. Justin and Patricia could rebuild their lives, their empire, their pride, but I would keep my focus where it truly mattered, on the children. Their letters, gestures of apology and compromise, were not bridges, they were reminders of what had been. The park glowed in the sunset, a canvas of orange, pink, and gold stretching across the horizon. The river reflected its fire, each ripple dancing in harmony with the last vestiges of day. I stood holding the kids' hands, feeling the warmth of their trust, the rhythm of their laughter, a melody that stitched my heart back together. The notebook lay at home, closed, its pages heavy with the weight of battles fought and victories earned. The house key, once a symbol of plans and schemes, now rested lightly in my pocket, a quiet reminder of my place reclaimed, not their house, not their approval, but the grandpa I had always meant to be. I gazed at the river's flow, steady and unrelenting, a mirror of my own resolve. Justin's letter, Patricia's note, they could not change the truth of what had been done. I had fought for justice for Tommy and Emily, and in that fight I had found my peace. The sunset kissed my face, warmth lingering, the children's laughter, a spark that ignited joy and relief deep in my chest. Margaret's smile, vivid in my mind, seemed to nod approval, quiet and knowing. I had done what I needed to do. I had reclaimed my place, my family, my peace. The kids ran ahead once more, their energy unstoppable, the river winding its golden path beside them. I followed, full and complete, every step lighter than the last, carrying the quiet triumph of a grandpa who had fought, won, and returned home. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To hear the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.